In the bustling market of Amulu Village, whispers followed the enchanting figure of Ebere. Her beauty was a spellbinding force that turned heads and stopped conversations. Her dark, flawless skin shimmered under the sun, and her eyes carried a depth that seemed to see through souls. Yet, no one knew where she came from. She appeared every market day, bought her goods, and disappeared like a mirage, leaving the men captivated and the women envious. Who was this mysterious maiden? Among those entranced was Emeka, a handsome and hardworking young farmer. Unlike the others, who merely admired from afar, Emeka was determined to unravel the enigma that was Ebere. One market day, he mustered the courage to speak to her, his heart pounding in his chest. "My name is Emeka," he introduced himself with a disarming smile. To his surprise, she smiled back, her lips curving in a way that made the world fade around him. As the weeks turned into months, Emeka's fascination with Ebere grew into an obsession. Each market day, he waited patiently for her arrival, his heart skipping a beat whenever her slender figure appeared amidst the throngs of villagers. "Why won't she tell me where she lives?" he often wondered, frustrated by her evasive answers. Yet, her gentle voice and warm laughter were enough to soothe his doubts. Ebere, too, began to warm up to Emeka. His persistence and kindness touched her in ways no other man had. Still, a shadow lingered in her eyes, as if she bore a secret too heavy to share. "You are different, Emeka," she said one day, her voice barely above a whisper. "But some mysteries are better left unsolved." Her words only deepened his resolve. One fateful market day, Emeka decided to take a leap of faith. Dressed in his finest attire, he approached Ebere with a small wooden box in hand. "Ebere," he began, dropping to one knee amidst the crowd. Gasps and murmurs spread like wildfire. "I don't care where you come from or what secrets you hold. All I know is that I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Will you marry me?" Ebere's eyes widened in surprise, and for a moment, she seemed unsure. But then, her lips parted in a radiant smile, and she nodded. "Yes, Emeka," she said, her voice steady but her eyes unreadable. The crowd erupted in cheers, but a chill ran down Emeka's spine as he caught a fleeting, almost predatory glint in her eyes. The days leading up to the wedding were a flurry of activity. Emeka's family spared no expense, determined to make the event the talk of the village. Yet, amidst the joy and excitement, a sense of unease lingered. "Do we know anything about her family?" Emeka's mother asked one evening. "Why hasn't she introduced us to anyone from her village?" Emeka brushed off her concerns, blinded by love. "She is my bride, and that's all that matters," he replied firmly. Meanwhile, Ebere kept her distance, her presence as elusive as ever. She spent her nights alone in the market lodge, refusing to let anyone accompany her home. The wedding day arrived, and the entire village gathered to celebrate. Ebere looked ethereal in her flowing white attire, her beauty leaving everyone spellbound. Emeka, too, was a sight to behold, his joy radiating as he took her hand. "I am the luckiest man alive," he thought as they exchanged vows under the watchful eyes of the village elders. As the sun set and the festivities continued, a strange hush fell over the crowd whenever Ebere moved. The villagers couldn't shake the feeling that there was something otherworldly about her. But Emeka, lost in his happiness, dismissed their unease. When the night finally fell, Emeka led Ebere to their new home, his heart pounding with anticipation. He lit a lantern and turned to find her standing in the middle of the room, her expression unreadable. "You've been patient, Emeka," she said softly. "But tonight, you will see the truth." Before he could respond, Ebere began to shed her attire, and to his horror, her skin started to change. Scales emerged where smooth skin had been, and her legs fused into a long, slithering tail. What are you?" Emeka stammered, backing away as fear gripped him. "I am Ebere," she replied, her voice now carrying a chilling echo. "But I am also the daughter of the river goddess. My true form is that of a serpent. I chose you, Emeka, because of your pure heart. But if you cannot accept me for who I am, then our union cannot last." Emeka's mind raced as he tried to comprehend the impossible. He had fallen in love with a woman who was not entirely human. Yet, as he looked into her eyes, he saw the same warmth and love that had drawn him to her. I don't know if I can do this," he whispered. The hours dragged on as Emeka sat in silence, his thoughts a whirlwind of fear and confusion. Ebere watched him from a distance, her serpent form coiled in a corner of the room. "I will not harm you, Emeka," she said finally. "But you must decide by dawn whether you will stay or send me away." The weight of her words pressed heavily on Emeka. He loved her, but the revelation of her true nature was too much to bear. As the first rays of sunlight crept into the room, he made his decision. "I'm sorry, Ebere," Emeka said, his voice trembling. "I cannot live with this truth." Tears streamed down her face as she nodded, her heart breaking. "Then I will leave," she said, her voice barely audible. With one last glance at the man she loved, Ebere slithered out of the house and disappeared into the forest. The villagers were shocked to learn that Ebere had vanished, but Emeka kept the truth to himself. He could never forget her, and the pain of losing her haunted him for the rest of his days. In time, the story of Ebere became a cautionary tale in Amulu Village. Parents warned their sons to be wary of strangers, and the market was never the same without her presence. Some claimed to see her near the river, her eyes filled with sorrow, while others believed she had returned to her mother's realm. As for Emeka, he remained a broken man, his heart forever tied to the mysterious beauty who had loved him despite her secret. And so, the legend of Ebere, the serpent bride, lived on, a tale of love, loss, and the mysteries of the unknown.